So to build our Edmond Public Schools elementary virtual curriculum for our full-time virtual students, we started with a lot of structures and systems and templates, and then we had teachers apply and become what we call content designers to distinguish them from their teacher role. And they went through training and now build the lessons within the templates. So as you can see, we have places for the designers to build, and we created the icons for those visual consistency and cues. So we have ELA courses, kinder through fifth, math, social studies, science, PE, health, music, computer science, and our fifth grade art. And within those courses where the teachers are designing, they all started with a very similar structure. They have a module that has links for the content designers. And those links are some reminders, like the fact that we use red font to trigger information that needs to be changed by the designer or a note to the designer they need to read. We also have a Google Doc that we call the guide that helps those content designers remember all the details that they need to build. So it's pretty lengthy, and we paid them for their time to read through this manual basically for what they're designing, because it has information about the YouTube account they need to use to upload their videos. We ask that their Google Drive components, which are pretty minimal, that those all end up in the same Google Drive so that is easy and organized. Everything is in one account, one Google Drive, one YouTube channel for this whole project. It also has reminders for them as they work through what they're building about how they go through some of the process and some of the ADA compliance, like making sure that every image has alt text on it. So they have this Google Doc guide in their course shell where they're building. Then the next module in every single course where content designers are building is their templates module. And what we wanted was that the pages they build inside of Canvas to look somewhat consistent for families, while the content was creative and different in every area. So every page in a course will have what we refer to as our stamp, where we've built the icon for the grade level and the word, and that way every fourth grade ELA page, in the top right corner, it says fourth grade ELA. This way, families who have a couple kids doing virtual Edmond can see as they're walking by screens what their kiddos are working on and in which course. Similarly, we gave them an assignment template and a Seesaw template for the grades who are using Seesaw partnered with Canvas. For their assignment template, it looks like this, and we gave them icons as visual cues for kids, and what the content designer does is they remove any icons they're not using for that assignment. So if the student is asked to type into a text box in Canvas, then the content designer would remove all of these other icons and just leave the typing. The goal was that they could build their directions at the top and always have a really consistent, clean visual at the bottom to help the students. I'll note on this page, you see the click here for help when they need to submit an assignment. We did find at the beginning the designers were typing things like click the top right where you see the button that says submit. After you click submit, type in the text box, then click submit again at the top right. So they were giving very detailed directions on the page right here. Foresight from some team members led us to change and pivot, because if Canvas ever changes where they put that submit button or the word on that button, it now becomes turn in instead of submit, we would have to go through our courses and change every place where we'd been specific about the directions. So instead of that, our ed tech team built a student page on their student tutorials website so that if Canvas changes something someday, they can come to this one spot and update the videos that they made. So the ed tech team built lots of helpful things for families as they're working through Canvas when they need help on how to submit a photo of something into an assignment or how to do a media recording. Okay, so a couple other templates that we gave the designers. We gave them some quiz, what we call cover pages. We thought they might be using quizzes just as practice. They might be using quizzes as a learning check some vocabulary, or an actual summative assessment. And basically all of the vocabulary practice that took the form of a quiz would have this look on the cover page. Whether they're in social studies or math, whether they're in first grade or fifth grade, it'll look consistent. The next modules that are in every single course are what the designers use to duplicate. So they all got these templates that basically have the same structure regardless of what course. Every weekly module in a course will have an info for teachers page, a week at a glance for families page, and an optional hype video that the content designer could either create or remove. And then they always have this day one header with the hearts color-coded the same in every course, and a start page for that day and a stop page for that day. So the designers have this module template that they use. They duplicate this whole module, and then they would build the learning pages inside of the day, in between the start and the end. What happens is, you'll see in a moment, the modules become extremely long, but it allows students to get check marks that track their progress, and they have to work in order. So it's similar to a Google slide deck in that when you're looking at the slide deck, if you saw the number of slides on the left, you'd feel overwhelmed. But once you go into present mode, you just see one little piece at a time, almost like a children's book, and it's not overwhelming. So that's how we're designing our courses. There's going to be a million pages, but once students get started, they just see one page at a time. If you'd like to see the templates, this is the info for teachers page template, and it literally just asks the content designer to put the standards or a note about where those can be found, like they might say, view the Bridges alignment guide on the teacher website. The content designer has a place to put insights for this module. Typically, that's a place where the designer types notes to the teacher who would be using this curriculum. The designers have put things like, if you have a live video call with your students, you might consider asking them this question. Or there's a quiz in this module that has a question you need to manually grade. Don't miss that component. So designers just make any kind of notes here for the teachers. And they also have this links to customize, because there are some instances where teachers need to come into the module and make changes, specifically when we've been using Seesaw. We also have the template in every course that's the week at a glance for families. So it always looks like this, no matter what grade, no matter what course. It has their stamp at the top right. And then it's just telling families, here's what we're learning for the week in fourth grade math. Here's the general pacing. And the designers are listing the assignments, nothing big, no details, just so the families can see, okay, we're going to do 5 things in Canvas and 2 things offline, and there's a quiz, and they can see it at a glance. And if there are paper components, whether there's supplies that are needed or something in the workbook, those are referenced here as well. So most students would click Start on a day 1 page, and it would look like this every time. The circle icon will change depending on what course they're in, but it'll say that they're going to start this module, that module, today's lesson will take about this long, and if there's something to turn in, there's a note here about that. Then kids click next. This is the part that feels like a children's book. They're just flipping through the pages. So kids click next, and they would learn through the whole lesson until they got to the stop page, which would tell them that it's the end of today. You'll notice on this page it has this what looks like a video at the bottom. We required all of our content designers to record audio narration of written text on their pages. And we did this specifically to help our non-readers and our struggling readers, or anyone who needs to hear it read for any reason. We knew that there are Google Chrome extensions and accessibility tools on iPads that could read screens to our kids, but accessing those and activating them would be more difficult than just being able to click play and hear somebody read with voice inflection what's written on that page. So looking at the templates again, the end pages are pretty important, because students who are clicking through and just going page by page, clicking next, doing the activity, clicking next, doing the activity, would easily accidentally move into day 2 or day 3 if there wasn't a page telling them to stop. I've jumped over to a science template. because it has additional page templates for content designers to help navigate students to the correct place in Discovery Education. There's an action phenomena with the stamp. There's an introduction page with the grade level stamp. And then depending on what part of Discovery Education they're in, like if they're in the Learn section, there will be the at a glance activities for that day. And there will be the directions for what they need to do and how to do it in the Discovery Ed tech book for science before they are done with that module. So here's a sample science lesson. You can see it looks similar to the shell we saw before. It has the info for teachers page. It has the at a glance for families page, and then it has a start and it has an end within each day. The pages inside are specific to that content area, and for science, those pages have that extra flow of we always start with the phenomena, and then they have their at a glance section and their directions. I've now navigated to our ELA courses, one of the content designing grade levels for English and reading and writing. And I want to show you a final requirement that we have for our content designers. Is actually called requirements in Canvas. So the designers come in here and for every given item, they set a requirement and they say that students have to work in order. That way they can't just jump to an assignment and say that they're done when they didn't do any of the learning related to that assignment. So underneath each item, you can see it has a word like view. Here's a submit. Here's a mark as done. So that's the requirement that's been set, which means a student has to do that thing in order to get a progress check mark and be able to move on to the next item. We've told our families that their modules are going to look overwhelmingly long, but that as soon as their kiddos get started, it'll feel, just like we said earlier, more like a children's book. They're going to go page by page. They're going to do their read aloud. And they'll click next. They'll have the directions read to them because these are potentially non-readers in this grade, and then they'll click next. And so the kids will work through their lessons page by page like a children's book. Here's an example of an assignment in our first grade ELA course. There are directions and the audio for reading those directions aloud. And then there's that consistent space at the bottom that tells students for this particular assignment, they're doing a media recording in Canvas. They're submitting it in Canvas, not Seesaw or somewhere else. And there's that link for the help that they might need. Our teachers who've chosen to be content designers for this project are doing an incredible job. They are taking in all of the rules and requirements and YouTube process and subtitles and every bit of it, and they're following our curriculum, they're following our pacing guide, and they're being creative to connect with their students. It's marvelous to watch it unfold. You see this teacher in this video here is recording from her living room, teaching those kids about the phonics lesson for the day. So the personal connection is there. It's not only videos that have already been made by somebody else on YouTube. Hopefully, seeing these templates and the structure that we built for our virtual elementary curriculum is helpful to you.